I have no idea how viable it is or what conversations are happening behind closed doors. When I do see Chris Mannix say that Golden State could quickly become the front runners for Jrue Holiday because they have exactly what's needed, which is A, the contract, B, the young players, C, the draft capital to offer. I mean, my gosh, this is, what's the commercial? Biggest no-brainer in the history of mankind.
Wesley Hogan.
There you go, Wesley. I'm glad you're here today.
Yeah.
This is the biggest no-brainer in the history of mankind.
You're just trying to get out of your bet with Alan Stiles.
No, but I didn't even think of that. You can share with the audience the genuine look on my face when you said that in the other room, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. I'd also win dinner.
You and Alan have a bet over whether or not Chris Paul will be in the starting lineup for your Golden State Warriors on opening night. He says yes, you say no, and you've been in some trouble now for the better part of maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
I thought the line moved yesterday with Tim Kawakami's comments, some of which we'll play for you here in a minute.
I love Tim, but I don't think the line moved that much because he talked about like eventualities in terms of them figuring it out. And he said like, oh, maybe 10 practices. But I think Chris's ego is stronger than maybe the eventuality you were hoping for. But this news over the potential Jrue Holiday trade and the Warriors being involved and Chris Paul, if Chris Paul's not on the team, he's not starting opening night, Mark.
No,
back to you.
And Alan could come up and say, all I said was that Chris was going to start on opening night. I didn't say for which team. Look, the favorite in the bet is probably, quite frankly, that someone's going to be hurt and the whole thing will be null and void. But truly, that is not a part of my thought process here. And just to moonwalk a little bit so that you all know what we're talking about, and we would love your thoughts. Would you do this? 888-957-9570. Jrue Holiday goes to the Blazers as part of the Lillard deal yesterday. And it has been made very public very quickly that Jrue Holiday is not in the future plans for the Blazers. They got a bunch of young pup guards that have a lot of draft capital, cachet, whatnot. The Blazers are young guard heavy. Jrue Holiday is not in their plans. Jrue Holiday is an incredible two-way player. Jrue Holiday is a low-ego player as far as NBA stars go. In fact, you probably don't even realize he's an NBA star. But go look at his numbers and look at his contract.
Sure.
He's fantastic. He fits perfectly. He's 5 years younger than Chris Paul. And the Blazers are not going to be looking for that sort of like, break the bank, we want a massive star. All they're going to want is young players and capital. Yes, some big contractual thing needs to happen for a trade to be allowed, so they're definitely going to want an expiring deal in the neighborhood of $30 million. Gee, let me think. Who's got that? Who's got the $30 to $35 million contract that expires at the end of this year that they would have no problem giving up? Go around the NBA. How many of those are there? Warriors have Chris Paul.
Yep.
Yes, he's tradable. We've read all the rules. Yes, he's tradable. Paul, Kuminga, draft capital for Jrue Holiday. I understand it would make some uncomfortable financially within the organization. I also know that Joe Lacob is someone who does that. When offered with, hey, you want to get uncomfortable financially here? Joe's usually like, can I win? And if the answer is yes, he says yes. I would do this yesterday. Gosh, I would do this yesterday. This would give me all kinds of optimism about this season that I do not currently have.
Yeah, I don't know why you don't have that optimism, and that's a little bit disappointing, I think, from a Warrior fan standpoint, because Chris Paul is a great player. He's a Hall of Fame player, and I think that he can fit in certain ways with this team. Now, is Jrue Holiday better? Absolutely, but you lose Jonathan Kuminga. So if you want to talk about your second unit, so you get Jrue Holiday in, and Chris Paul goes out, and Kuminga goes out, so now your second unit is Klay Thompson and
I don't know who the sixth man
Dario
would be.
Saric and Brandon Podziemski.
And Moses Moody and you're...
Oh, boy.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You said
you're
it
in
yesterday.
some trouble in the second
it's not.
unit.
You're not. It's not a line change. You're in trouble with the second unit because you lost Jonathan Kuminga
and Chris Paul.
But you got Jrue Holiday.
Sure.
So you've got a better six. You've got a better front six. You lost your seven in exchange for a better six. And can you sub in that 7, whoever that is, whether it's Dario Saric, whether it's Moses Moody, who, by the way, quite frankly, has achieved more in big moments as a young player than Jonathan Kuminga has already in a Warrior uniform. Like, yeah, that doesn't worry me at all. Not even a little bit. I think this, and by the way, when I say it would give me all kinds of optimism that I don't currently have, I'm not telling you that I'm all the way out on the Warrior roster as currently constructed, but I said it yesterday. It's old. It's old, and that does not usually work. Turning 38 into 33 and lowering the ego is a huge yes.
For a 1 year thing, for sure.
From me.
From a 1 year standpoint, absolutely. And for me, if you have to give up your 2028 first or your 2030 first or both, because you can't trade next year's first, and I don't think you can trade the 2025 first either. So I think the first time you can trade your first-round pick is 2026. So if you want to do that, go ahead and do that. So you give up Kuminga, and you're giving up on Kuminga, and you're turning Chris Paul into Jrue Holiday, and it's a 1 year thing. So if it doesn't work after 1 year, I wonder what you do with your team, because if Jrue Holiday opts in and Klay Thompson wants to get a deal commensurate with how he played last year, that's at least $30 million a year. And I don't think that you want to pay all these guys all that money.
Yeah, I have no idea what Klay's going to make. I don't know about the whole at least $30 million a year. We'll see how he plays this year.
His year last year was at least worth $30 million. Probably more like $35 million.
Bobby Marks actually called it about $30 million a year as of last year. But if you keep hearing people, he's in steep decline and he can't defend anymore.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, this contract would not be about 1 year. Like this whole $35 million a year idea for Klay, if it's a 3-year deal that's running to his 37th or 4-year deal to his 38th birthday, I don't think it's going to be $30 million a year. I don't think that at all. And so I don't see this as a 1 year type of a thing. In fact, I think they're much more tailored for 1 year right now than they would be if they got Jrue Holiday, because from the simple standpoint that Jrue is signed for 2 years, if he wants it, right? Player option for the year after this one. And he's a player who's still going to have life beyond those 2 years if something were to work out for him to still be on the team going forward. Not Chris Paul. Like right now, the way the Warriors are set up, this is another reboot next season. You're hoping to extend Klay Thompson, Chris Paul, that's it. You decline that option, and you head out onto the market with maybe a new couple dollars to spend, and I don't exactly know what they would do with that. So to me, this is this makes you a better basketball team this year, and it probably makes you a better basketball team for a couple years after that as well. And for me, it's about maximizing Steph Curry. If they always say that, and everyone always does, here's your chance.
Well, and your chance came by trading Jordan Poole, and you brought in Chris Paul, which gave you the word that everyone likes to use now, which is optionality, because you have that with Chris Paul. Even if you keep him at the end of the year, you have optionality in terms of his salary and what you could do with that slot. So if you would have kept Jordan Poole, you didn't have that optionality because you were locked in for him for 4 years. But you bring in Jrue Holiday, and if things work well, but you don't win the title, and Klay plays great, well, then you have a choice to make between Jrue and Klay, because I don't think that you would sign them both, knowing that Andrew's going up. Andrew's contract has been very team-friendly. Draymond goes up. Steph is north of $50 million for next year. So based on what you had heard from your Warriors sources, they weren't going to try and do 4 guys making north of 30, and that's what you'd be looking at.
Actually, though, no, because if you remember what Andrew Wiggins' contract is, it does not get to 30 until he has a player option in 2026.
Wow, yeah.
He's sub 30. Draymond is sub 30. What I don't know, and just to share that with the audience, the idea that after this new CBA rule goes into effect, that NBA teams across the board are not going to want to do 4 players making more than $30 million a year. That was said to me, okay? So if that's the case, well, how far down does that extend? Does that mean it's okay if you got a bunch of guys making 28? Is 30 the hard number? Draymond's making less than 30. Andrew would be making less than 30. I don't know what Klay Thompson would make. And obviously, in that scenario that you just threw out, Jrue Holiday would be making more than 30. Klay Thompson would be making more than 30. So they actually would only have 2 people making more than 30, potentially 3 with Klay.
Sure.
But again, I look at this more, the history of Joe Lacob. Joe, a number of times, has been like, we're not doing $400 million.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, it's like, you said you aren't doing $400 million. He's like, all right, we'll do $400 million, but we're not doing $420.
Well, this year is the first time that he said it, and it looks like they're going to do it.
Yeah, because when presented with an option that looks like a winner, Joe Lacob says yes. That's Joe. You're a Warrior fan. You got a great owner. You got a great owner who will do that. He will extend the strings when presented a great opportunity, especially one that you didn't know was coming. This is that. Nobody knew this was a possibility. So I definitely think the Warriors are going to be in on these conversations. I really hope they get it done. I think that this would be this is W's across the board for the Warriors if they do it.
Do you hope that they get it done because of your love of Jrue Holiday more or your disdain for Chris Paul?
There's
like which one hits you harder? Because I know you don't love Chris Paul. And Jrue Holiday, everyone likes him. Good defender, very good defender, solid egoless player. He's a great player in the association, early 30s, fits with the timeline and all the rest of it. But I wonder where your motivation lies more.
Well, it's more about Jrue, but it's also like it felt like your question was making it more about individual people, like personal. It's not personal.
It's basketball personal. Because whenever the Chris Paul thing came up months ago, you were adamantly against Chris Paul.
I don't think it fits. And he's old.
But you were adamant against him as the player, and based on what you've gleaned from him and what you've seen from him, and so
there's a little.
It was more than his age and his career. It was more about like the player he's been.
Listen, we're Warrior fans,
and you're not wrong for that. Yeah,
we're Warrior fans. We're not fans of Chris Paul,
right?
That doesn't mean
we are now.
It doesn't mean I've got like an axe to grind with him.
No, I'm not saying you're out there throwing eggs in his house.
He's not my favorite. But I could certainly wrap my head around it if I thought it was a perfect fit. I think the Warriors have done an unbelievable PR job over the last 3 months, getting everybody to go, yeah, it fits. No, it doesn't. He's 38, and he's small. Is he a better defender than Jordan? Sure. Is he more mature than Jordan? Sure. Is he probably not going to get punched by a teammate? I think so.
Is he a better fit than Jordan? Yes.
Yes, but that's because Jordan literally became toxic. So almost anybody would fit more than Jordan Poole. Do I think it's this perfect fit and we're all kumbaya now? No. I've been very clear the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There are times where I feel like we're being punked. You're bringing in Chris Paul, Dwight Howard, and Rodney Magruder? Is this a joke?
Rudy Gay.
You're playing jokes on us, right?
Right.
Okay. So, no, I can wrap my head around Chris Paul, the person, but the fit, I still do not really see. And this is a way better fit for now and in the future. This is a younger, better basketball player. Sometimes we got to simplify this. It's very similar to the conversations we've had about the Giants. Oh, too much analytics, and this guy in the front office, and this guy's in this position. Stop. Get better players. That's it. End of sentence. End of sentence. This is an opportunity to get a better basketball player. Do it.
Yeah. Even if it's just for 1 year and you have to give up Jonathan Kuminga, who looks like he could be a future star.
Looks like he could be. Boy, where's this market been on that sentence over the last 3 years?
Well, they've been in the camp of Steve Kerr won't play him. That's where they've been.
Right.
I don't think that anyone has looked at Jonathan Kuminga and said, well, he's not the guy. Like, you saw James Wiseman, and you could make that determination based on what you saw.
Define that, the guy.
Like, you look at Jonathan Kuminga, and you don't look at the way he plays and think, oh, he can't possibly be a star. You look at James Wiseman, and you see the way he played, and you could look at that and say, well, I could see where they're going to give up on him.
I wouldn't say that, but if you're the guy, like an all-star, I would firmly bet against that happening for Jonathan Kuminga.
I mean, an all-star it's few and far between guys who become all-stars.
Exciting style.
Can he give you 18 and 9 a night and be an exciting player? Absolutely. Can he be Kuzma?
To me,
can he be Siakam?
Oh,
can he be?
I would guess probably not.
Wow. Okay.
I would guess probably not.
For a guy who's 21?
Yeah, like maybe.
Okay.
He's got very.
That's what I said. Maybe.
He's got a very right, but
his upside is through the roof.
But I don't want maybe. Steph Curry's here. Bleep maybe. What are we doing?
Sure.
Steph Curry is here.
Yeah.
Let's go with yes. Can Jrue Holiday be an amazing player in the NBA? Yes, he is.
He is, yeah.
Done.
He's a star.
Get him. We gotta stop.
No, it's easy to spend Joe Lacob's assets when you're.
Well, listen.
Just send them all away.
Yeah.
Trade all the draft picks.
No, and
trade all the young players.
That is my current opinion. Not always. It is right now. It is in this situation. Is he going to do it? I don't know. Does he have to do it? No. But
he's more likely to do it if he can. I think you're right about that.
Yeah, I'm certainly sharing that's what I would do in this situation. I feel like we get stuck right now, whether it's James Wiseman, Trey Lance, what have you, because of where we've been. There's kind of this thing where it's like, if you want someone for the now instead of the future, you're like you hate young players. No, I don't hate young players. But in this particular situation, I don't want to. I would rather have Jrue Holiday than the possibility of Kuminga becoming XYZ. And by the way, stats don't even do it for me because there are a lot of players in the NBA that can do 18-9 if they're on a crappy team that's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if he can do 18-9. Can he do it for a champ squad? I'd bet against it.
You mentioned Lance and Wiseman, and those are unfair comps in terms of the Kuminga conversation.
I didn't comp him to Kuminga. I comped him to the way we talk about young players.
You said Lance and Wiseman.
Young players. That's all I said.
Lance and Wiseman are different than Kuminga, in my opinion.
Agreed. I did not comp them to Jonathan Kuminga, I'll say again.
Okay.
I did not.
I'm not saying that you comped them to that.
I talked about the way that we view young players, this whole potential thing. Let them play. Let them play. They have been with them for years. If the Warriors,
Kuminga's been here for 2 years, 3 years, maybe.
Right, that's a long time.
Okay,
and he's in practice every day. And I think he's a good young player. If they think he's a superstar, they wouldn't be on the phone. Do you think they're on the phone right now?
They're absolutely on the phone.
I think they're on the phone right now.
I think everyone's on the phone.
Yeah.
And they're talking about Chris Paul, and maybe they're even talking about Klay Thompson. We don't know who they're probably shopping everybody but Steph Curry. And if they're shopping Steph Curry, then I don't want to be a fan of this team anymore. But if you're on the phone, then you're taking calls and you're shopping. You're probably not shopping everybody, but if teams are asking about Klay Thompson, you're saying, well, maybe not Klay, but hey, Chris Paul, certainly. If you're Portland and you're looking at the Warriors and the offer is Chris Paul, Kuminga, and a first-round pick, to me, it's an absolute no. I think they can get more than that.
You think?
Absolutely.
Huh.
Absolutely. It's a seller's market right now in terms of Jrue Holiday.
But you got to remember, someone's got to have that contract. Someone's got to be paying somebody north of $30 million, and it's expiring, and they want to get rid of it. That doesn't grow on trees. Not everybody's got that.
Right, and also be a contender in that same space.
And be able to pair it with a young player and assets that you like. You know what I mean?
But the draft picks, if you're Portland, you're looking at these draft picks and you're not looking at them as like lottery picks.
No, but everybody who's offering you picks are going to be contenders. That's why they may even want something that's further down the road. Maybe they want a 2027 or 2028 draft pick because
2030.
I would like the once Steph is retired, first round draft pick, wouldn't you? I know it's down the road, but that's the way Portland's looking at this. They're not winning anytime soon.
Right.
Everybody calling is going to be a contender who right now is going to offer you something in the 20s as far as a first-round pick if it were next year.
For the most part. And so then it comes down to what's the player you're getting back. And if Portland is really enamored with Jonathan Kuminga, then it becomes more of an attractive thing because Chris Paul is a veteran placeholder. He's a salary. He's a contract in terms of what you're describing, like what Portland would want. They got to match up a salary, so you're looking for a guy who makes a lot of money, who won't be around for long. And if that's Chris Paul, then so be it.
Yeah, to me, this one feels good. It feels good, and there's another aspect to this because you asked if it was like personal about Chris Paul. Not personal, but there's a concern.